Hello, and welcome to Yellow Brick Road Rash. I don't ordinarily do short videos, but I kind of felt like I needed to wrap up a couple of things after talking about Watiko for the last 2 chapters. I talked a lot in those 2 chapters about raising our own individual vibrations so as to benefit the community as a whole. And if enough of us do it, we can raise the vibration of larger and larger communities and maybe have an effect on where we are as a nation. I talk a lot about being in flow, and flow is that place where you are just doing what you absolutely love. You when you're in flow, you don't want to stop. Time's going by fast. And a lot of times that involves being creative. And Paul Levy in the book Watiko talks about that being the medicine for our society. It's creating, sharing your creations, and then teaching how to create so that others can be in flow. And honestly, I think that's a fantastic mechanism, and it's something we can do. All of us can do that. However, in looking at the big picture, I know that there are a lot of people out there with really big emotions happening. And one of those is anger. And I get that. I have a lot of anxiety about what's happening and fear of future unknowns. I am using creativity to balance that fear, and it works for me. But there are people out there who are just born to be activists. And activists, we need them. We need people who are willing to, and not only willing to, but are literally born to be in that role, and willing usually to sacrifice a lot to do it. It takes a lot to be a person willing to go put themselves out there like that in order to affect change, in order to affect change in the greater good. So, for those of you that might be feeling anger and wanting to really put the rally cry out there for others to join in, I think that the activism part is very important, but I would encourage you to leave anger at the door. And bear with me here. It's a little bit of a roundabout way of getting to my point, but I started thinking about when my kids were born back in the mid-'80s. Back then, corporal punishment was still part of how people parented. We were already moving away from that. And I'm super glad now that we have the internet and lots of information to be shared about other ways to discipline your children. But one thing I remember about that time period was that it was instilled in us that you should never spank your children when you are angry. You shouldn't discipline your children when you're angry. You say things that aren't enforceable. So when I think about activism and about how in both cases you're trying to instill new ideas in others and affect change for the greater good in both cases, that activism would be better approached in an organized way, and also have a plan and set goals, just as you would do if you were disciplining your children. I feel like I'm maybe not getting my point across the way I want to, but the anger will drive you to making big decisions about how you want to be involved. But at some point, you need to separate yourself from that emotion, because, to be honest, fighting fire with fire doesn't work, and fighting anger with anger doesn't work. So turn the anger into productivity and a plan, and get in your flow if that's who you're supposed to be. I know I couldn't do it. So we need those of you who are able. That's all I really had to say. We all have a place where we can be in flow. And it's important for all of us to find that place right now. No time like the present. All right. Love you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.